Hey guys, this is Older Youngin here, or Ferrari, whatever you want to call me. Basically, today I really wanted to talk about zero clearance and kind of go into how the game looks at zero clearance as well as uses for zero clearance. Now, this video is not going to get very sophisticated. A lot of this you can really test on your own since it's fairly simple to do once you understand the concept behind it as well as know what you're trying to do. So let's get started. First of all, I should explain what zero clearance is. Now, before I begin, this is just a regular bench. There are no custom objects. This is strictly the newest build of OpenRCT, which you can get in the description below. You can go right to their website. There are a few custom objects, which are just objects that weren't included in this list that were forcefully added in, as well as three custom objects that are usually not included in the game, 4. And then these colorable roofs, which are simply just from the pirate theming, which is not available on this bench. So, anyway, let's begin. First of all, you're going to want to go to your shovel tool over here, and you're going to want to highlight Disable Clearance Checks, and just click it. And then when you click the shovel again, you should see it checked off. Basically, that means your collisions have been turned off. I call them collisions because that's more of a layman's tool for what this is and to make it into a simpler context. So essentially, when you have zero clearances on, the first item that is on the tile will always get priority over future items that go on that tile. This includes scenery, paths, roller coasters, rides, everything you can think of. So let's say I place this table, all right? And then I want to put path under it. As you can see, the path goes over the table, or goes under the table. Now, if I delete this table, I go back and I build it again. Notice how that tile that was there previously now has priority over this spot. And it's even the first thing that my mouse selects. So if I delete that and then put the tile back, now the picnic table has priority over the tile. This is zero clearance in a nutshell. This applies to merging tracks. This applies to scenery. This applies to really everything you would want to be doing with it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all that. So that is zero clearance in its basic form. There are a lot of interesting things you can do with zero clearance by using scenery, pathing, etc. So let's say you have a city, you're in a city park, right? You have city theming or maybe a downtown district, whatever. And you want a tram that goes like this over the tile. Now, let's say we just have it like go over this way, okay? And then we put the entrance and exit. And now we want our peeps to be able to cross this path. So usually, how you would go about this is you would do this. So they would go over the path, or you can build under. That's if you had collisions. Now, since we don't, this is where it gets pretty nice. We can just build right over it. No problem. One thing you need to be aware of is when you're using zero clearance and you have it enabled on OpenRCT, if I click on one tile, you will build the same object there multiple times. So now watch me right click to delete these. So when it comes to building scenery, you just want to be a little careful about how many times you click, because if you click too much, quick double click, you have an extra object on your screen, and if you're building a huge park, you might hit your cap. So that's just something to be aware of and to just kind of take note of when you're building a park. You could also do interesting scenery combinations. So if you wanted to, you could do something like this. Delete this portion and rebuild this. So you get kind of like a globe effect on the top. You can also do things with pathways. Let's say you want your peeps to go through a door. Despite this not having an animation, your peeps will walk right through this. Simply put, they're going to walk through these doors. I can just show by getting a guest and placing them over here. So we're going to make the park free. Let's go ahead and open it. We're going to use the speed tool that's available in OpenRCT. We're going to put in turbo speed, and then we're going to click our guest list to get a guest. Here we go. We got Cynthia D. So we're going to place her, pause, put it on normal speed, and then unpause. Now, you could, if you notice, see, she goes right through the scenery and she goes right through the train. So when zero clearance is enabled and you place a path directly over it, you don't have to worry about your guest colliding with it or turning around or etc., etc. So that's just something to keep in mind. When zero clearance is enabled, these type of rules still apply. And see, I'm not able to build over that despite having zero clearance. So in order to have a wall that the guest could walk through, you first want to connect the path and then build your wall. So that includes any archways or low-hanging walls or anything that you're looking to do. You need to be sure your path is already connected before doing so. So that pretty much clears any misconceptions or ideas about zero clearance and how it works with OpenRCT, as well as just RCT in general. These same concepts can pretty much be applied onto ACARS. So now I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to explain the basics behind track merging. Now, this is done totally different on ACARS. I could not explain it since I have never used ACARS to much of an extent. So I'm explaining this in simply RCT2 terms, or OpenRCT terms. So what I plan on doing is I want a log flume that has a steep drop. Now this isn't completely possible. So I'm going to go ahead and explain how you would do that. So first of all, you're going to want to start to build your log flume. So you would build this like any usual ride. So let's go ahead and get some height. So let's go ahead and do 35 feet. And this is going to be the big drop. So first we're going to want to get some pieces. By the way, one other thing I forgot to mention about zero clearance is you can go through the ground with these pieces. That includes water. Just kidding. Does not include water. But it would if it wasn't OpenRCT. You also can notice that it creates a tunnel despite there not being enough room for one. So something you want to just be aware of. Make sure your feet is okay. Otherwise, you're going to have some pretty glitchy looking rides. Anyway, back to the track merging. So log flumes are a pretty common thing. This isn't something that's fictional or something that you wouldn't see in a real ride. So I'd rather show on this ride because this is something popular people like to do. So now we're going to go ahead and delete all of this. Okay? So all we're left is with these connecting pieces that head this way. So we're going to use a dinghy slide because a dinghy slide would fit great here. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to control the piece you want to start at. So you're going to control this piece. You're going to control that. Okay. Not cooperating right now. Okay, well, you can also just disable clearance checks and you could just drag it up to this level. Notice how the piece is above it. Now, because we're in zero clearance, the game doesn't recognize that we don't have collisions on. So it's going to show as if the construction is going to occur above it, but really it's going to occur at where the yellow arrow is. So you just go ahead and click, and you just want to make sure you're at the same footage. So in order to do that, you're going to go to your sight tool, you're going to hit height marks on ride tracks, and as you can see, 35 feet, we're good here. And we're going to go ahead and have it go down like so. And when it does this, this means the ride is successfully connected. So nothing to worry about here. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and test it and make sure it functions correctly. Something to just be aware of that, you just want to be sure that your ride is okay, nothing blows up. So we're going to make sure it doesn't blow up here. Make sure it's successfully connected. And there you have it. The ride is indeed connected by that little slide. And I'll just go ahead and show through test results. I'm going to put it on hyperspeed. There you go. Normal test results as well. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is after a track merger, if you delete the ride that it's connected to, like for instance, this is your merged track. If If you delete the log flume, it will not carry this over with it. See, it carried a few pieces over that the game considered a part of the log flume from this ride, since they were considered one ride. However, the major pieces aren't, so then you can go ahead and delete that as well. So that's something major that you could do. Is you could obviously try using other pieces. You could use, I've seen people use the splash boats, as that looks a little cleaner than the dinghy slide. I just prefer the dinghy slide, since most real log flumes tend to use something similar to that, where like steep hills like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and show the same concept in roller coasters. Roller coasters are a little more interesting because not everything is going to connect the way you're expecting it to, which can provide some pretty interesting results, to say the least. So what I'm going to do is something totally different. We're going to use a vertical drop coaster. Now this is all using zero clearance. So track merging is one thing you can do. You can have track pieces that usually don't connect. So you could have a loop to a ride that typically doesn't have a loop, such as a junior coaster. You can add a loop. You could use hills or chain lifts from other rides. However, this time I want to do something a little different. So first, we're going to want to go to our cheat menu. We're going to leave our clearances disabled. Go to cheats. Go to your ride cheats. We're going to want to show vehicles from other types. It's going to give you this warning message basically saying, hey, you might not want to put Advantage cars or something like that onto this ride, or put a rotation mode, whatever. And then we're going to leave it as is. We'll go ahead and disable breakdowns, disable brake failures. I just like to have that disabled just because. So I'm going to go ahead and show the more quirky natures of using zero clearance. So let's build this ride. Just some of it. And let's do something really cool. How about right here, right about here, we have it go straight up and then go backwards. Now, let's take into mind what we just talked about. So, as you can see here, the game recognizes what is at, whatever sprite is at the highest point on the tile is given priority. That same concept with scenery and objects applies to roller coasters as well. Now, does that mean that the game's going to recognize this as the first piece it sees? No, it means that this is going to be a full connection up to this point, and then it's going to come back to this tile that's highest, the one that you see first, which is the straight piece. So I'll go ahead and show you that. So we'll let this go. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Let you see it for yourself. So it's going to come up, and then it's going to turn the other way. So there's that. So now let's have it maybe do like a loop. All right. And I'm going to show it in a different way. Since an S-bend is a simpler way of doing it, how about we have it like do, I don't know, we'll have it do like a turn instead. And then right here, let's have it turn the other way. So we're going to do that. So right here, we're going to delete this piece. We're going to turn it like this. And then we're going to come back to this piece and then put the bend there. Okay? And we want to make sure this piece has priority. So we're going to go ahead and rebuild it to ensure its priority. Hold on one. Let's just be sure that it has priority. Okay. It should have priority over the other piece. So we're going to go ahead and test it, turbo it up again, and let it go. See how it does this time. Okay, and there you have it. So there is a different way of doing it, and I just blew the ride up. You could also, which may be a little more interesting, is you can use chain lifts to turn the coaster around. You don't have to do it in this fashion. So if we go back over here, first we're going to want to go to our cheats. We're going to go to the ride tool. Let's see. Is it already enabled? It is not enabled. Okay, that's fine. If there was if I had the chain lift tool available, which this is a newer version, so it may be in a different spot, I would be able to change the chain lift speed to, let's say, I don't know, 60 miles an hour. And then we could actually do chain lift right here and then delete these pieces, let's say, and then have it go straight ahead to another direction. So that's just something you could have done. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with this in mind. And you can make full-fledged coasters doing this. So that is the basics behind doing a coaster like that. Now there are other things that you can do with zero clearance, which involves other rides. So for instance, let's find a good ride to do it with. How about if we took a Wild Mouse ride and converted this and used this as the tracks to a Vintage Cards? That's possible with everything we enabled. So first we're going to want to go here. We're going to click this and see we have this huge list. Be very careful. You don't want to hit anything that would not work. So obviously swinging floors cars would crash your game. So we're going to slowly go down and we're going to click Vintage Cars. Okay. Now notice how the tool completely changed because of the ride we picked. Since we have Vintage Cars, the ride automatically changed itself to a car ride. So let's go ahead and do some interesting things. Oh, that's going to break the hell out of the game. All right, we're not doing that. Here we go. How about we do this? Let's see what happens. Alright, and here it goes. Now I just want you to see what's about to happen here, as this is just something that's fairly interesting. It wasn't interesting at all. Well, anyway, so there you have zero clearance in a nutshell, and that is pretty much all the concepts that you would need to work with zero clearance. So if you have any questions or comments or maybe things you want to add to the video, as well as criticisms about the way something was explained, please just leave a comment or comment on the Reddit thread that will also be linked in the description. So thanks again. Thank you for watching.